Good day, I'm Debra Morrison, and I spent 42 years, yes it was child labor, in the financial industry serving clients and bringing their goals with their money in a pursuit of greater happiness. And I was ecstatic doing it. Sold the company in 2020 and now have since served mature women as a financial and leadership coach, because there's still a lot of gaps, particularly with women, with regard to wealth in general, money, and how we create intentional wealth. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. Because wealth, and of course I'm disclaiming because I'm not advising, but wealth is this confluence. See, people tend to segment just into dollars, and wealth is our health. You do not need a better example than if you lose a portion of your health, or someone close to you does, or you die, or someone close to you dies. That brings our priorities pretty front and center. So I'm talking about taking a step back from needing to have these outside impetuses actually throw us for a bigger loop than might otherwise be necessary. Now, I'm hoping that by the end of this class, you're going to glean how you can create your intentional wealth with the fullness of physicality, mental acuity, spirituality, financial certainty, and do it in the most expeditious way possible. And I'm also hoping that you hear from my lips something that perhaps you've never heard from a certified financial planner's lips before, because I was raised on a 100-acre beef cattle farm, and I come from where the rubber meets the road, and it's unvarnished, and it's true. I think that we have very little time to waste. And that's why I'm on a mission and passionate about giving particularly mature women who have a shorter time span than do our younger counterparts the truths about money. Now, life's roads are twisty, are they not? I mean, we end up identifying a problem, right? Any problem, doesn't matter. We start to read up on it. We ask Dr. Google, right? We hypothesize, this or that, then we do some more research, back to the books, and finally we come to some conclusion. And sometimes we do this within the space of our own ears, absent the professionals that could make this road, even a twisty road, less perilous. And I'm going to invite us today to be We Can Do It women. And one of the capacities of a We Can Do It woman is to know when to lead and also know when to follow. And if you're not in your lane of your specialty, I invite you to step back, notice, take in, and follow. Now, GPS, we all know about it. In addition to us it taking the worry out of new territory, I don't want to really get lost. It also gives us police ahead, etc. Restaurants. It gives us our ETA, for goodness sake. What did we do before it? And yet, a lot of us aren't any farther along on our financial empowerment and our creating intentional wealth than we were prior to GPS. And there are resources now, non-commissionable professionals that can guide you on your path. Yes, there are. Now, a lot of women in particular identify as risk averse. They think risk is the worst four-letter word. I get it. I can empathize with losing money, especially in the markets, right? I can clearly identify with losing family members, jobs, careers. Yet money seems to then root itself, or the loss of money roots itself. And I had women coming into my office and say, I made a big mistake. We'd sit down and I'd say, what did you do? Well, I did this and I did that and I lost $10,000. Okay, what else? No, that was it. It was back in 1987, and you're still harboring it. It's still shackling you. I put the pen down. I said, I think I heard you say you did this and you did that and you did that and you lost $10,000 back in 1987. That's it? If that's it, we're golden. Now we're moving face forward and we're going to self-forgive. Because did you ever try to gloss over something like it really didn't happen? No, it happened, and likely it left a scar someplace. And I'm hoping that the healing has happened, and I am going to purvey methods by which and strategies by which we can all heal. Because even as a seasoned, certified financial planner, I made a huge financial misstep. Yes, I did. It leveled me, my lane of specialty. And I got caught up in a Ponzi scheme. Yes, I did. And over a series of investments, it added up to groups of zeros. And after one day of completely being flattened, it dawned on me, none of my clients knew this. I did something extra with my money. It was not what we dealt with our clients' money in. And it dawned on me, 34 of your high net worth clients are counting on you, don't even know this has happened to you, counting on you to give them their piece of financial advice or guidance or direction. And I put my big girl pants back on. And I began my recovery. So when a woman or any of us make a financial misstep, and I prefer that because that connotes motion, yes, not mistake that kind of cements us into that memory. I've been there, done that, and recovered, and I'm happy to share those strategies with you because my life has been a whole lot richer since then, even without the groups of zeros. So the risk management's role in a winning financial plan is huge. It's not a roll of the dice. No, it's not. It is something that can be quite dissected, thank you very much, and managed. And we're going to get into that. We're not going to talk about getting out of debt and being debt-free like some pundits. We're talking about minimizing debt because the richest people in the world leverage other people's money when it's cheaper than their own. So we're going to identify risks and assess the impact of risks: premature death, disability, property damage, general liability, market volatility, inflation, recession, health issues, job loss or setback, and the cost of medical care. Huge things. We can typically with risk avoid it, assume it, or transfer it. And I always like to transfer the groups of zero risk, right? That huge liability. And I want to say, one lawsuit can ruin your entire morning. And if you think you or a member of your family who gets charged with running someone off the road and they are maimed or killed, and if you think they're suing you for $10,000, think again. Add some more zeros. And if your umbrella liability, even if you don't, maybe some of us don't even have it, not me, but some of you may not have umbrella liability, and I beseech you after this to call your agent and get it. But $1 million is not going to take us even halfway to first base. What's your net worth? Is it $5 million? Then buy $5 million of umbrella. Okay, so I'm going to chunk things down, and if it seems like it's too monosyllabic, then you can go back to those people who speak financiers. But I'm suspecting that you're listening because you're looking for a new angle. You haven't gotten there yet, or you've gotten there, but you'd like to accelerate the pace and interject joy along the way. And that's why we're here. Basically, you've got to buy insurance before the need, right? You can't have a little kitchen fire and get on the phone to your property and casualty agent and say, "Oh, I got to increase my..." I sold life insurance for 19 years. One of the biggest struggles was getting people coverage because their health had gone downhill so far that they were going to pay a huge rating. Another story, but here's where we want to think ahead because we can minimize the effect. Not just financial, and yet financial is sizable, but we can minimize the effect of this on our psyche and our emotions. The obits are filled every day with people of all ages. I say probably 98% of the people in every day's obituaries didn't plan on being there yesterday. So if you don't think you can afford the life insurance premium, and I'm a certified grief coach and I have counseled many, many, many widows who sheepishly admit, I said not to buy the life insurance. If you don't think you can afford the premium, let me give you a vision of what that widowhood is going to look like without that death benefit. It will hold fewer choices because money buys choices. Now let's get a sense of proportion here. Typically the average worker gets 4 weeks of vacation over 40 years, 160 weeks, 3 years. If we only lived 10 years beyond retirement, and I don't care what age that is, we would have had more than 3 times all of our vacations put together in just 10 years of retirement, and yet most Americans spend 5 times as much time planning their vacations. Edit. Shall I go on the last comment?
I think you're saying 5 times the vacation.
Yeah, I would start with that last bullet there.
And yet most Americans spend 5 times the amount of time planning their vacations than their retirement. Oh, I see, if you mess up a vacation, no biggie. Fear of messing up, right? I get it. Money isn't just money. No, it's not. It's loaded. It represents security, control. It represents ego, all kinds of fighting fear of not enough. It's completely intertwined with most of the facets of our life. And so, I want to invite us to consider that we are dealing with emotions in life, and then we are dealing with intellect in life. And I invite us to deal with each of them separately, not together. Because neurolinguistic programming tells me when emotions are high, intellect is low, and vice versa. So, emote, and I'm fully in agreement with emoting, and then, if you need to, turn your chair to a different position and say, now, the next 10 minutes, I'm going to involve my intellect. It's so easy of an exercise, and it's so palpable, the results, when we can ferret out the emotions intertwined with the intellect. Now, a lot of women have self-identified as risk-averse. Oh, I'm risk-averse. Can't lose principal. Some of you came here today across highways that were 4 lanes on each direction. So total 8 lanes, one side to the opposite side. Now, at the risk of being laughed off the stage, how many of you would go down to one side of those lanes, 4 this way, 4 the other way, and would just boldly walk across those 8 lanes without the benefit of a traffic light? Anybody here? Anybody's going to walk across in the traffic when it's buzzing by? Like, no. Heck no. Are you nuts? How about if your 3-year-old granddaughter's on the other side of those 8 lanes saying, Grandma, who's going across those 8 lanes? So let's get through our pockets of ignorance in so much as risk is variable, and it's best to manage that for your return. Now, some people say, well, I didn't make any decisions, so I'm good. Well, It isn't safe not to make decisions. Stagnation breeds regret, costly missed opportunities. We want to manage our expectations around this in order to improve our results, right? You deserve to have the wherewithal and the information on a timely basis to make those decisions. And no, they won't all be perfect. Warren Buffett has admitted to $6 billion mistakes. That's with a B. Who do we think we are to venture into investing without making missteps? Let's contextualize our lives. Our comfort zone will kill us, yes. More women are going to live in poverty in retirement than men. The statistics are harrowing. 65-year-old women are 80% more likely to live in poverty, right? A 75-year-old to 79-year-old, 3 times more likely than men to live in poverty. Now, why? We've made career sacrifices. We've elevated the financial needs above our own. We've accrued less retirement savings because of gender pay inequalities, and we have longer life expectancies. Yes, we do. So, here are the longevity odds. A male who is healthy at age 65 has a 50% chance of living beyond age 85, 25% chance of living beyond age 92. How about us women? Healthy at age 65, 50% chance of living beyond 88, 25% chance of living beyond 94, and if we're coupled, 50% chance of one of us living beyond 92, and a 25% chance of living beyond age 97. Is your financial plan going to last that long? Or might you have a fear of running out of options? Oh, some of you might have thought I had a different last word there, right? So women want to sleep at night. They want to make sure that they're covered, their families are covered, their kids are covered. And I've got news for you. If you're riding on the presupposition that, my parents are good, they got the trailer and they're running around the United States, they're traveling internationally, this is not your parents' retirement. No, it's not. Because guess what? I know it seems like a Ripley's, but your parents retired with a free and clear house, full medical coverage for the rest of their life, shorter life expectancies, empty nest like 2 or 3 or 1 kid with an appetite, hasn't come back home to live like 2 decades, right? It's different now. We need to plan differently, and that means we need to pay some attention. So behavioral finance is that which basically smooshes together. You can have all the objective information in the world. See, the stock market has returned about 10% over the last 80 plus years, but the average stock market investor has returned 5%. The bond market over the last 80 years has returned on average 4 to 5%. The average bond investor has earned 2.5%. What gives? Oh, I see. Somebody panicked and sold and locked in their losses. I get the impulse. It's strong. And yet we must steel ourselves towards strategies that are nimble to keep us in positive financial territory and emotional territory. Now, how about perceived information? Like everybody should beat the market, right? How about just getting the market? Yeah. The indexes have done quite nicely, thank you very much. Yet a broker will not make many money selling you an index fund. It's non-managed, there's no commish. So the broker's going to say, let's beat the market, shall we? And you think, why not? This is a competitive society, I'm up for it, and eventually your investments are down for it. Information processing. Where are we getting our information? And how are we making decisions then that aren't based on that? Our decisions are based on the information that we're getting. And so we need to be very, very vigilant about the sources of our information. And it's not going to be CNBC pundits. No, it's not. And then we take action. On a cold January day, a 43-year-old man was sworn in as the chief executive of his country. By his side stood his predecessor, a famous general who 15 years earlier had commanded his nation's armed forces in a war that had resulted in the defeat of Germany. This young leader was raised in the Roman Catholic faith. He spent the next 5 hours watching parades in his honor and stayed up celebrating until 3 in the morning. You know of whom I speak, right? It's January 30th, 1933. Hitler. And some of us might have thought it was JFK. So if we take action based upon how we distill information and it happens to be incorrect, that action is going to need to be truncated and tweaked, and we need to pivot into something that's far more positive and productive. Now, I want us to stop with absolute statements. No, I wouldn't cross those 8 lanes of highway. No, I'd never invest in the stock market. I want us to stop with the limiting beliefs because there's no more time for that. I want us to change our story so that it works for us and it doesn't weigh us down. I want to invite you to define money as a tool. So whenever we're learning a new discipline, it requires a lot, a new gear of consciousness, yeah. I love driving a stick shift, you know. You go into a new gear, and now everything is very different. Everything. I was privileged to do a driving school with BMW. And you're driving at breakneck speeds, 120 miles an hour with the driver instructor. I don't even know how he has the nerve to get in, but he does. And there we were driving around the track. And I thought I was looking forward. And he took my face and literally angled it to a 90 degree from where the car I thought was faced. And it allowed me to go faster and not hit the chalk marks. And I won the competition that day. But most importantly, it's a matter of us looking toward the openings. The instructor said, anybody here in driving ever see a guardrail? A lot of people raise their hand. Of all of you people that saw a guardrail, who hit it? Every single one. Oh, I see. Don't, well, I want to say don't. We're going to look for the openings, aren't we? Because if we look for something else, we're going to get that something else. So we're going to give ourselves that new gear of consciousness, and we're going to self-forgive, because absent that, we are not going to make as quick of progress. We want to introduce a series and a season of intentionality starting now. And I'm going to go over a goal timeline that I created, which actually has worked pretty well for people. And then I'm going to invite you to cement your goals and objectives on a vision board. Because when you have the vision board, you see, that is indelibly printed. You might have it on your smartphone. And when you're inclined to do an impulse buy, you say, oh, wait a minute, I want that lake house more than I want this gizmo. And so it brings us back, because marketing is very, very dynamic now. And we can fall prey to it without kind of understanding that we are. So I'm interested in us completely facing forward, and that is going to require tenacity. So you see a little Band-Aid down there because we're going to have some missteps. Yes, we are. I want us to expect that and to put the Band-Aid on and keep on hiking. Now, I'm going to get into the goal timeline because it's, I think, very apropos and easy for you to get a foothold into the next chapter of your achieving your intentional wealth. Yet let me start with some of the facts, because history is rich. Mark Twain says history may not repeat itself, yet it will surely rhyme. And it's not wise for us to make decisions today absent knowing what the history, particularly of returns of various asset classes, has been. And so it's a tiny bit small, and yet what you're seeing is a trajectory of various types of assets. We call them classes, since 1926. And so you'll see on the black line, if we were around in 26 and we were around at the end of 2022, it would cost us $17 today at the end of 2022 to buy a lunch that cost $1 in 1926. Y'all with me? So that's the measurement of inflation, right? I remember nickel ice cream cones. I remember 29-cent gas. I remember when the richest guy in our town was worth $100,000. Now, if you think that's going to reverse itself over the next 2 decades or 3 decades, we're going to differ. So I want to plan for it. Not afraid of it, we're going to ride with it. So also, if we were there in 26 and put $1 into U.S. Treasury bills, like CDs, okay, we'd have $22. If we were around then and put $1 in U.S. govies, long-term govies, 131. Sure beats a T-bill, yeah? How about stocks? That scary stock market. Had we been around then and put $1 in, let's say, the Standard & Poor 500, large stocks, we'd have 11,527. And when we've been around then and put $1 in small stocks, you know, the names you don't even recognize because they're so small, we'd have 29,600 I'm sorry, can't see it, freaking 28,688, yeah. Had we been around then and put $1 in small stocks, those names you can't even recognize because they're so small, we'd have $28,000. Now, this is not an indicator to say, oh, well, we shoulda, coulda, woulda, and we should now put everything in small cap stocks. No. It's a tiered approach. So I liken it to fingers on a financial hand. You're going to have some cash, which is liquid. It can be turned into cash right now to pay a bill now. You're going to have some T-bills. You're going to have some bonds. You're going to have some large stocks, and you're going to have some small stocks, and then you're going to sprinkle in the world, etc. You may look at that chart and see October 19th, 1987, I was sitting in my office. I went to lunch. It was an hour and a half lunch. And when I came back, the U.S. large cap stock had dropped 28% in 2 hours. I don't want to go crazy, but if you had a $100,000 portfolio, you now have $72,000 on paper. It was a comeuppance that we had not seen. We've seen a lot of fluctuation since, but that was a bellwether time. And if you look closely at this chart, it's just like this little, you can almost miss it, right? What I want you to notice here and build your foundation of trust of the financial markets, and particularly the stock markets, is that it continues to go up. Don't talk to me about 7 minutes or what we call data mining, October 4th to December 15th, we did 700%. Yeah, good. Thanks for that computer algorithm that ferreted out that best return period. No, we're going to deal with rolling periods of returns. Now, I'm not asking you to know this. I'm just giving you the vernacular so that when your fee-only financial advisor says, hey, 10-year rolling returns, I'm confident with that, bada bing, bada bang, you're going to be in on the convo. We don't go to a foreign country in which English is not their first language without something handy to enable us to speak the language. So I'm attempting to translate and bring you to the table not in finances, yet in English. So that you go to bed tonight and you say, I know something I didn't know yesterday, and we're going to build on that. That's called compounding. Compounding your knowledge. And by George, that's going to compound your net worth right along with it. And your self-worth. They really go hand in hand. So I hope this has given you an idea of the fact that we have heard until we are almost deafened with that big R word about the stock market. Risk. How about the return, right? How about the risk-return relationship? And I'll go you one step further. Risk is the currency for our returns. Yeah, probably haven't heard it. And it's wise to just let that sink in. Now, there's certain guardrails, if you will. You don't just hop into the stock market this afternoon and expect to make a killing any more than you would take the ingredients to make a chocolate cake. And it says put it in a 350-degree oven for 50 minutes, 50, and you put all your quality ingredients in it. You spent your time, you mix it up, you put it in the oven. Now, the recipe says 50 minutes. But after 10 minutes, you're a little bit curious, and you open that oven door and you jerk that out. Not going to be such a good chocolate cake. Because you didn't follow the recipe for optimum results. Now, I wish the markets and the stock market was as predictable as a recipe, and yet it is ultimately fairly predictable with regard to the traditional patterns and the returns associated with it. So I want us to talk about money as a tool. Yes, it is. Work people don't come to a work site without a tool belt, right? It's beneficial to have a lot of tools in your belt so that when this happens, you access that. And when that happens, you access this. We're prepared. We're not caught without the proper response. So what is money going to buy us? What is this tool going to be good for? Why are we talking about money? It's so uncomfortable a topic for so many. Well, maybe we'd like to fly first class instead of coach. Maybe we'd actually like to buy the college tuition of our choice for our kids or grandkids. Maybe we'd actually like a second home and some other things and support the charities which do need our help and which we will feel ever so much more rich having given to them. Yes, maybe we want to have enough money to buy time to readjust for those unexpected moments in our lives. Whatever it is, I invite you to now take a look at my lifeline chunked down with goals. So I made this up and I basically drew a horizontal line, and on the top of the line I'm inviting you to write your goals, and I chunked it with vertical lines 0 to 12 months, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 7 years, 7 years plus. That's how we're going to get into relationship with our money. That's how women are going to bring money into context. You see, difference between the genders, it's a stereotype, and yet I found it to be more true than not. Men are more content-oriented, women are more context-oriented. You get sold a bunch of financial products. You got this annuity, you got that annuity, you got a lot of annuities, you got a lot of life insurance because they're the highest commission products in the world. You got a couple of mutual funds and exchange traded fund, and the woman is there typically. Do I need this? How does it fit together? Is this going to pay for Johnny's and Sally's education? They don't know because the broker doesn't know either. They're paid a commission and they're peddling products. And we're moving to a different era where there's a whole bunch of advisors. I was one of them, and there are a bevy of them behind me that actually plan with you. Tease out your goals. This was the hardest job I had as a practicing fee-only fiduciary planner. Yes, it was. I say, well, what do you want to do? Deer in the headlights. You know, people are busy on a rat wheel. I'd finally say, well, you probably want to at least have the standard of living then that you have now. Oh, yeah. Okay, great. We're starting there. And you know, it's a pump that's once primed, it continues to produce. So they say, oh, I always wanted to go to Hawaii, and Bill has always really wanted to visit his birthplace over in Europe. And pretty soon it starts to tumble out. And I invite, if you're coupled, to you sit and your partner sit in different spaces and in isolation from each other, and just dump out your goals and maybe keep a running tab on something that you have with you to capture the new running goals that you want to prioritize as to what will the 5, 10 biggest goals be. And they might be different from your partner if you're partnered, and that's okay. So I just filled a couple in. Emergency fund in the next 12 months. Maybe I want to max out my 401k in 1 to 3 years. Maybe I want a new car in 3 to 5 years. Maybe I want to pay a college tuition in 5 to 7 years. And maybe I want to give a huge philanthropy gift, 7+ years out. And for some, retirement will be in that 7+ years. So that's pretty easy, right? We can do this. I would like you to start now. What do you want to do? I took my mom to swim with dolphins. I'll never forget it. I went on a safari. People have bucket lists before I die. I'm giving you some ideas. Take a look through a travel magazine. Google top places to visit. Steep your mind in possibilities. Now, the second portion of your assignment, and yes, it is an assignment, is to attach an approximate dollar goal to each dollar to achieve each of these goals. And I know you may not know the amount, and yet whatever you're coming close to is going to give us a whole lot of impetus. So let's talk about putting down dollar goals. You know, this is starting to, if you're tracking with me on an analogy, it's starting to look like, hey, we're bringing the target in here. Isn't that interesting? And then we're going to finish it with the warning, if you will. Because goal setting evokes both excitement, like, whoa, I think we can go to Hawaii. And once you begin your involvement in this creating intentional wealth, everybody around you is going to notice. Hey, Mom, that's different. Next time your adult child asks you for a loan gift, you say, you know, Jerry, the last 4 loan gifts I've given you weren't repaid and didn't work out as we had anticipated. And I'm working with a financial coach now, or a certified financial planner, and they're inviting me to actually make a plan that I can follow. And that involves me making choices and me saying no to various things that at least I have experience or I have an intuition aren't going to give me the return, so that I can be self-sufficient in retirement. Jerry's going to get that picture. I had women come to me and say this. It was a hard appointment for me to steal them with verbiage so they could go back to their respective Jerrys and deliver it. Invariably, the next month they come in, I say, how'd Jerry do? What's Jerry? How Jerry? Oh, he got it someplace else. Sure he did. Sure he did. Yet if you have been this endless yes, I mean, that's why... If you have been this endless yes, that's why charities continue to tap those of us who give to them, because it's the course of least resistance. Now, I don't have children, but I have an imagination. And my sense is probably there are those in the audience and listening that can't even imagine living with one of their kids, and probably equally strong, none of their kids can actually imagine the parent moving in. So this is better for everyone, you see. In essence, then, what we're going to interject here, and what I have written on the bottom, again, not advice, and yet my experience shows me that the emotional side is the goals. That's your job. And then the intellect is going to be supplied by your financial advisor. You don't have to do it. And I'm inviting you not to do it. Because this requires a significant discipline to stay the course. So I've included typical investments that correlate with each of the time swaths on the bottom of that horizontal line. And I'm calling that intellect, right? That is the most likely group of investment types that fits the 0 to 12 months. Cash, money markets, T-bills. 1 to 3 years, short-term bonds, treasury bonds. Treasury bills are 1 year or less. Treasury bonds, 1 year or more. 3 to 5 years, income and bond mutual funds. When you hear the word income, it means bonds. When you hear the word growth or equity, it means stocks. And so I say it in that order. Income, more bonds in this basket called a mutual fund, then stocks, but it's the two of them smushed together. Dividend issuing stock mutual funds, where you have a little of capital appreciation and a little return. Most of you are familiar with real estate. If you buy raw land, there's no immediate day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month year-to-year return. Hence, you don't have any tax on that. You could buy a rental, and there's generally rent. You're going to pay income tax on that rent received. You're going to tax deduct these expenses. So people say, which is better? It depends. Do you need income? Do you need tax relief? Do you just want high octane growth? The total return, the combination between the rent and the capital appreciation, might also be exactly what the total return of your raw land would be. It's just that all of that total return comes from the capital appreciating, no income component. Women have come to me and said, I had a widow come to me at age 58, and I did what no broker would do. She had $1 million death benefit check, and she pushed it across the desk, and she said, you can buy a CD anywhere, right? Everywhere, all over the world, Puerto Rico. I said, yes. Okay, she said, buy me 10 $100,000 CDs. Push the check back over. I'm not doing that because you're 58 years old, and this represents the preponderance of your assets. And we need to look at past history of returns to determine what would be a good basket, a lot of things, that would give you an after-tax, after-inflation return that would continue to give you a lifetime and ever-increasing lifetime income. As a fiduciary planner, that would be malpractice. She pulled her chair up to the table and said, all right, what do we do? See, women just want the answers, right? A broker would have sold her 10 CDs, and then he would have rolled it in 6 months and sold her 10 more, and maybe he would have laddered it if he had a big imagination. I'm not as interested in the negative remarks about brokers being taken personally by that person who's in the brokerage business. What I am suggesting is Wall Street is pumping out products, and fiduciary planners are focusing on planning. And once the plan is devised, then we feed the appropriate products. To me, this is winning strategy for the long term. And if you've never had a financial plan done first, I don't think the sale of another product is going to do anything but weigh you down. And it might be an expensive product because there's a commission being paid on it. So 5 to 7 years, growth and income. Growth, more stock than bonds, but a bunch of it together, right? And then 7+ years, stocks. Can you make money in stocks in less than 7 years? Sure. Yes, you can. It's just I'm not going to suggest you count on it, because in the day, I mean, I'm going back 44 years, a whole market cycle, trough to peak to trough, was 7 years. We've had market cycles in like less than a week since then. I mean, everything has gotten so rapid, right? Yet, I want to manage our expectations. And so, if we have a long-term goal, then let's feed that goal the food that won't run out. Let's put it in stocks. Now, I don't like a person to buy an individual stock until they have $250,000 in mutual funds. Just doesn't make sense to me. There's so much diversification. I mean, everybody thought Enron was great until it wasn't. So if you buy a mutual fund, which is basically a collection of stocks, there might be 10,000 names in there. One goes bankrupt. Okay. You have the other players in that mutual fund that take up the slack. I'm giving you this as baseline information. I'm not charging you with doing the intellect part. Yet I hope I've taken some of the scare that you might have harbored about the stock market in the previous slides away, so that you will feel free to incorporate this asset into your portfolio. Now, I often make the analogy in golf. I mean, I'm a golfer, and anybody here golfer? Okay. Would you edit? Sorry.
Before you start?
Sorry.
Before you start, just
Yeah.
on the other side. It's not the sweat. There it is. You just had a little piece of hair. You got it here.
Thank you.
You're good. Good now.
Is that good?
Yeah.
I'm a golfer. Who golfs in here? Okay, great. Could you use the putter off the tee? Yes. But why would you with a driver? You see, in golf, there are different clubs for different distances. It'll be a very long round if you're using the putter all day from any distance. So when women have come to me and their IRA and their 401k and everything else is in bonds, I gently start a process of education to say, we have this part covered. Now we're going to move more into some growthier assets. As a lot of older women feel they're undersaved and might even fear they can't retire. Guess what? I am not suggesting I or anyone knows what the future of these traditional markets, and I grant you there are other markets out there now. There's sophisticated markets, there's crypto, there are other things. And yet just the meat and potatoes, stocks and bonds, based upon the history, right? These asset classes are going to be able to take us safely home. If we think about Social Security, it's an income stream. So you might liken Social Security to a bond in terms of your whole mix of stocks and bonds, which relieves you of having quite so many bonds of your own, right? Invites you into the growthier. And if you feel undersaved, guess what? If the future holds anything like the past, and stocks are returning, let's just be round figures here, 10%, and bonds are returning round figures, 5%. Is it hitting you that maybe you only need to save half as much to fill the gap of income needed and assets needed to give you a lifetime income if you choose to invest more in stocks? That's the value of a financial advisor who's interested in your success. And so I ask you, what's your stand? I've said about We Can Do It Women having a stand, taking a stand for something. And I want us to take a stand for our intentional wealth. I want us to take in radical responsibility for us. Yes, everything in a woman's socialization, at least older women's, has been outward focused, right? Well, everything is a strong statement. A lot of it outward focused, right? But let's get back to the origin of radical, shall we? It is a 14th century term meaning root in the Latin vernacular, and it's literal, proceeding from a root and vital to life. So what will you do with your seeds? Will you smother them in the package, or will you open the package and plan? And this is a coffee stream into a coffee cup, and I want us to fill up our own cups first, women. Yes. And then when the cup overflows, the saucer contents are those which we can rightfully and freely and without any question whatsoever give away. There's a whole lot of leeway once you complete a financial plan, and the financial planner runs a probability analysis without getting too weedy. Hey, what's the chance this is going to work? And then you say to the planner, remember that goal I thought about? What if we did that? What would my net worth look like at age 95? And they run a different scenario. They're called iterations. And guess what? You can figure out and see in real time, based upon very sophisticated algorithms, if you can afford to take a big vacation, $30,000 in 1 year, or if you should just take $5,000 vacations, or if you can retire earlier than you thought. All of this is possible to map out. So when you bring in your dreams and you combine passive income, which is real estate and things that you're not day-to-day involved with active, your career or your part-time work, you're going to get to a space of having the whole picture. You're going to have proverbial chickens, right? And the chickens are known typically to lay eggs until they don't. Raised on a farm. Chickens can go into a molt period, generally in the fall, low protein, lose their feathers, 0 eggs. 10 weeks, average. So if your chicken isn't giving you any eggs, you better figure out how else to supplement your diet. Bringing it into the financial, you better figure out, and we'll want to figure out, how we can hold some of those eggs in our hand and not eat all of them. And that's called an emergency fund. So I ask you, who's been pulling your strings? Is it the government, kids, your partner, your boss? Whoever it is. Probably a lot of this between your ears, yeah? It's your time. It's your time to prosper. I say we have 2 assets in life, time and health. I don't want to waste either one of them. So we want to focus on small, systematic gains, and those are going to compound. Einstein called compounding the 8th wonder of the world, and he wasn't kidding. It is magnificent. I want to celebrate adopting new strategies. In the down markets, I want us to continue to make our systematic investments, because guess what? We're accumulating more units. See, I'm shifting the focus from, oh, it was $100,000 last month and it's $80,000 this month. Yes, but if you're continuing to invest, you just bought at half price. And what you're doing is amassing a basket of units that sometime in the future you're going to say to your financial planner, I need $10,000 for the bathroom, I need $18,000 for a vacation, and they're going to do the dissecting and the tax minimization and the dovetail strategies to get it for you. But you're going to be accumulating all of the units, let's say in any of these 5-fingered categories that we covered before, and someday they'll take the money out of this one, and someday they'll take the money out of this one. So I am very intent on us feeling positive each and every day about our money, rather than negative. Now, I think the lottery is a tax on the mathematically illiterate, and some of my best friends are horrified when I say that. And it's not so much about the math that concerns me about the lottery. It's the, every night, I don't even know what time it is because I don't play, 6 o'clock probably, something, you get out your number, you get out your ticket, and it's, 5, 4, 3, 2, 8, 6. You lose every night you play, in most cases. I ask people, what would you do if you won the lottery? And typically we go ahead and plan for those very things and more. They don't have to leave their future and their happiness and that of their families and friends to chance. No, they don't. Save early and save regularly. This example, Allison saved for the first 15 years, right? They all saved at the same amount, $500 monthly, 7% annual earnings, forget taxes. And then Sam says, oh, Allison, yeah, she's always been a go-getter. So she starts saving the first 5 years. Sam starts in year 15. He saves for another 15 years. I might have said 5. Allison saves for the first 15 years, and then Sam starts to save 15 years out, and they all save until the 30-year mark, right? And Chris, he saved every single year from the get-go. Each of them are looking at a 30-year period and the balance at the end of 30 years. Allison has $451,000. Chris beats her at $609, of course. And Sam, who waited 5 years, lost opportunity and lost the compounding that could have been making money for him while he slept. So don't wait. Start with something. Get this in motion, right? You can increase it anytime you want, but once it becomes habit, then we're going to build on it. Now, a lot of people came to me as do-it-yourselfers, right? Smart people. And in essence, There are a whole bunch of terms on here, and I'd invite you to take a look at a couple of them. If you can identify 3 or 4 terms, good luck, God bless you, because they're kind of sophisticated strategies. And I've saved clients $250,000 on one strategy. Yes, I have. But it's not going to be in the vernacular of a do-it-yourselfer. And so I want us to know when to lead and when to follow. And similar to Jenga, let's beware of making sleeper decisions. Oh, I'm not going to talk with my financial planner about that. I'm just going to go ahead and buy that car. Forget the buy, lease, and studies. And you pull out a thing, and you think it's an insignificant and non-consequential decision, and maybe it's not. Even your kids, if you have them, aren't a Rhodes Scholar, creative artist, star athlete, model, quality, beautiful or handsome, even-tempered, and AI geniuses, and Juilliard School of Music concert pianists. No, they're not. There's some of these things. Similarly, $1 can't give you liquidity, growth of capital, income, tax-advantaged income. You see what I'm saying? We got to prioritize. That's why we're putting 5 different asset classes, or you choose however many asset classes, but we must prioritize, and then we're going to match those investments to the goal to minimize our risk. And finally, expecting the unexpected involves us bringing together all of the facets of behavioral finance, some of which are still very subconscious, right, into emotional intelligence, and then having all of that mixed up and steering good and productive actions. We're going to contextualize risk and safe, right? Because that certificate of depreciation that people got so very, very much involved with and happy about, the bank said to them, this principal will never go up. No, the bank didn't say that. The bank said, this principal will never go down. And they thought it was good news. And when IRAs started to be sold by banks, a lot of people said, oh, I'll have $1 million. That's how they were producing it. You'll have $1 million by the time you're 70 and a half. And I wanted to say, knock, knock, what will bread cost? So let's celebrate a strong foundation of what in the technical term, Monte Carlo simulation financial plan will give you. Tweak it and rerun scenarios. We want to use leverage. Should you pay off a mortgage if you get a $50,000 cash inheritance? Probably not, because you're tax deducting the mortgage interest, and you can earn more in this example than 3.5% on your own. And other people say, well, I lose 20%, I gain 20%. No. If you lose 20%, you have to make 25 to go up. So we want to minimize our huge losses for sure. And so the keys to creating intentional wealth are identify our dreams, form our plans, dovetail strategies, income tax and investing, legacy planning, radical responsibility, and monitor and adapt. Absent the planning, we miss opportunities. Money and emotional. We want to embellish our gifts, and we want to plan, in essence. It exponentially increases the likelihood of us achieving our goals. So which will you choose? You see the same letters are in both words, reactor and creator. Try it on your notepad. And a reactor is very downtrodden, and a creator is very forward-facing. So I want us to feel the energy, and it is rich energy of money. In essence, creating intentional wealth is going to give us compound return on our investment. And I invite you to be a We Can Do It woman and create your intentional wealth.